Alrighty. Okay. Jazz. This is specifically this. Duke Ellington, 1963. Alright, most of you don't know who that is, and that's totally fine. He's a jazz musician, and just a show of hands. How many people voluntarily listen to jazz? Yeah, okay, figures. Well, that's pretty amazing, because every single one of you that had their hands down was completely wrong. All jazz was shaped by the music before it. So modern music today, it only makes sense that it was shaped by jazz in some way. Things like key signatures, the charts, the chord progressions, just stuff like that really kept jazz alive in modern music today. And I'm going to tell you why. Maybe.
Turn it on.
How?
On the side. Is it not funny?
Yeah. All right. So, Burton Peretti, a jazz musician and music historian, explains that jazz is a form of soul, which, if you've ever listened to soul, it's very upbeat. But jazz is a little bit more free-flowing and kind of open to interpretation. It's played with instruments. And so jazz is a mixture of blues, soul, and classical all just rolled up into one big mess. Some main elements of jazz, there's staccatos on every single note. And a staccato is just a separated attack. So instead of just playing the beat, just a long beat, you would just stop it short, just so that there's more separation in between. There's forte piano crescendos on everything that's longer than one beat. So if it's longer than a beat, you hit the note hard and you get soft, and then you grow really loud at the end. It really makes the music kind of more exciting, and you don't really know what's going to come next. Comparing this to the smooth and gentle form of blues and classical, and then you mix the soul in there, and it's just one big new sound that nobody's ever really listened to before. In the 1800s, former slaves would want to express themselves the only way they knew how, through their music, and they used old songs that they learned while working and stuff, and they would kind of mix a new kind of feel, adding just instruments and stuff to there. This obviously later became jazz, and the height of jazz was in the 20s with a band called Dixieland Jazz Band in New Orleans. And they really showed how jazz can be played with the improvisation and the free-flowing kind of feel that jazz brings. All right. As jazz started to kind of fade away in the late 30s, early 40s, people like Elvis and Chuck Berry and Chubby Checker all took inspiration from jazz, and they started to form their own kind of new music that obviously took off their careers. And taking stuff like the staccatos and the crescendos and complicated key signatures like G flat and D flat that you don't really see much anymore kind of kept jazz alive, and it created swing and later rock and roll, which everybody knows rock and roll. Ted Gioia, an author and musician, stated that all music past the 30s has jazz in it in some way, whether it's the rhythms, chord progression, like major 2-5-1, which is a B, G, and A all played at the same time, just to give it make it a chord, and it gives it that kind of happier, nice sound that a lot of people like to listen to. each generation has their own type of music that everyone kind of associates them with. And in the 30s it was jazz, and then it went on to swing, rock and roll, kind of pop, and then obviously there's country and rap today. Alrighty. So, getting into the more modern stuff, let's start with rap. How can rap have jazz in it? It's just straight talking. There's not really any music to it except for kind of a background beat. But yes, even rap has jazz in it. Rap is free-flowing. You never know what's going to happen, but it always has a changing beat, just like jazz. The time signatures are all over the place. You can't really tell what is going to happen, just like jazz. If you take out the words and just listen to the music, there is always a staccato on each note. Next time you listen to a rap song, just stop listening to the words and listen to the beat behind it. You'll always hear a hard-hitting note. Rap and jazz are both improvisation. Like if you're good at it, it's one of the most impressive things that you'll hear, especially if you know that it's improv. Mark Levins, the author of Jazz Theory, which is the most critically acclaimed book on jazz ever, shows the similarities with pop and jazz. People like Ed Sheeran and Adele are very well known for adding kind of these older chords and older key signatures and stuff that hadn't really been used that much since jazz. They use chords like the 2-5-1 and 4-5-1 chords that have that upper register and happier notes that people like to listen to. And things like staccatos, the rhythms, the chords, and even swing have stayed and kept jazz alive through the modern era of music. And songs like Find Your Wings by Tyler, the Creator, and The Creator and For Free by Kendrick Lamar are great examples of how jazz has been kept alive within the modern era of music. So I've given you 3 prime examples of how jazz has influenced all music past the 1930s. And for the people that believe to have never listened to jazz before in their life, I can safely say that in one form or another, you most definitely have.